The storm hit the planet Kesra without warning. Purple lightning cut across the sky like angry claws. The wind screamed through the crystal forests, making the tall glass-like trees sing with a terrible sound. It was the worst storm in 50 cycles, and it chose the worst possible night to arrive. Yuna stood at the window of the human observation post, watching the chaos outside. She was a small woman with dark hair tied back in a simple knot. Her eyes were tired but kind. She had been on this alien world for 3 years now, studying the Velith people. She knew their language. She knew their customs. She knew they were dangerous, but she also knew they were not monsters. The Velith were tall creatures, standing almost 3 meters high. Their bodies were covered in hard scales that shimmered like oil on water. They had 4 arms, each ending in claws sharp enough to cut through metal. Their faces were somewhere between an insect and a lizard, with large compound eyes and mandibles that could crush bone. Most species in the galaxy feared them. The Galactic Union had only recently allowed them to join, and many still believed it was a mistake. But Yuna had seen them care for their young with gentle touches. She had watched them mourn their dead with songs that made her weep. She knew there was more to them than their feral reputation suggested. Her communicator buzzed. It was Jihai, her assistant, calling from the other side of the station. "Yuna, we have a problem," Jihai said. Her voice was shaking. "A big problem." Yuna felt her stomach tighten. "What happened?" "Elder Mother Sara is missing. The Velith hive is going crazy. Queen Thessa is demanding to speak with Ambassador Doyun right now." Yuna closed her eyes. Elder Mother Sara was the oldest living Velith. She was over 400 cycles old, small and frail compared to the warriors of her kind, but she was sacred to them. She remembered the old times before the wars, before the isolation. She was the living memory of her people. And now she was gone. Yuna grabbed her jacket and ran. The meeting room was already full when she arrived. Ambassador Doyun stood at the center, his hands raised in a calming gesture that was not working. He was a tall man with gray hair and a face that usually looked peaceful. Right now, he looked terrified. Across from him stood Queen Thessa. The young queen was magnificent and terrifying. Her scales were deep purple, almost black, and they seemed to absorb the light around her. Her 4 arms were crossed over her chest, and her compound eyes burned with fury. She was only 30 cycles old, young for a queen, and her reputation was fierce. She had killed 3 challengers to take her throne. She trusted no one outside her hive. "You will tell me where she is," Thessa hissed. Her voice was like gravel scraping against glass. "You will tell me now, or I will tear this station apart with my own claws." "Your Majesty, please," Doyun said. "We have no idea where Elder Mother Sara went. We had nothing to do with her disappearance. Why would we take her?" "Because you want our secrets," Thessa spat. "Because you want to study us like animals. Because you are soft, weak creatures who use tricks instead of strength." Yuna stepped forward. She knew she should stay quiet, but she could not. "Queen Thessa," she said, her voice calm and clear. "We are scientists. We are here to learn about your people, yes, but also to help. We would never harm Elder Mother Sara. She is precious to you, and that makes her precious to us." Thessa turned her burning eyes to Yuna. The queen was so much taller that Yuna had to crane her neck to meet her gaze. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other. "You," Thessa said slowly. "I know you. You are the one who sits outside our hive and watches. You learn our words, you bow to our elders." "Yes," Yuna said. "I have great respect for your people." Thessa made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was not a kind sound. "Respect means nothing. Words mean nothing. Only actions matter." She turned back to Doyun. "You have 48 hours. Find my elder mother and return her to me, or I will assume you have taken her, and I will respond accordingly." The threat hung in the air like poison. After Thessa left, Doyun collapsed into a chair. His hands were shaking. "This is a disaster," he muttered. "If we don't find her, the Velith will attack, And if the Velith attack, the Galactic Union will have to respond. It will be war. Millions will die. Captain T1, the head of station security, stepped forward. He was a solid man with a stern face and military posture. We should search the area around the hive. Maybe she wandered off in the storm. She's old. Maybe she got confused. The Velith have already searched, Jihai said quietly. They found nothing, and their senses are much better than ours. Yuna was thinking. She thought about everything she knew about Elder Mother Sora. The old one was not confused. Her mind was sharp, even if her body was weak. She would not simply wander away. Unless she had a reason. The hollow caves, Yuna said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. What? Doyan asked. The hollow caves, Yuna repeated. They're ancient. The Velith used them for death rituals long ago before they built the hives. Elder Mother Sora told me about them once. She said that when a Velith knows their time is near, they feel a pull to return to the old places. It's instinct. It's in their blood. T1 frowned. The hollow caves are forbidden. Even the Velith don't go there anymore. Exactly, Yuna said. That's why no one thought to look. But if Elder Mother Sora felt the call of her ancestors, she might have gone there, alone, in secret. Doyan looked at her with desperate hope. Can you find these caves? I think so. I have old maps, and I've studied the terrain for years. T1 shook his head. It's too dangerous. The storm is still raging. The wildlife out there will kill you before you get halfway. Yuna looked at him. If I don't try, millions will die in a war that never needed to happen. One life against millions. That's easy math. I'll send soldiers with you, T1 said. No, Yuna's voice was firm. The Velith will see that as an invasion. I have to go alone, unarmed. It's the only way they might trust my intentions. Doyan stared at her. You would really do this? Walk into that storm alone to save an alien who might already be dead? Yuna thought about Elder Mother Sora. She remembered the old one's gentle voice, the way she spoke of the ancient times with such sadness and hope. She remembered how Sora had touched her hand once, a rare gesture of trust, and called her Little Warm One. Yes, Yuna said, I would. She began to prepare for the journey that might cost her life. The crystal forest at night was beautiful and deadly. The glass-like trees rose high into the purple sky, their surfaces reflecting the lightning in bursts of white and violet. The wind howled through them, creating a sound like 1,000 voices screaming. Rain fell in sheets, cold and sharp, cutting against Yuna's exposed skin like tiny knives. She walked forward anyway. Her pack was light. Emergency rations, water, a medical kit, a thermal blanket, and a small tracking device that would help her find her way back. No weapons. She had promised to go unarmed, and she meant it. If she died out here, she would die with clean hands. The communicator in her ear crackled with Jihai's voice. Yuna, can you hear me? The signal is getting weak. I hear you, Yuna said, raising her voice over the wind. I'm about 2 kilometers from the station, heading northeast toward the old river bed. The storm is getting worse. Sensors show wind speeds of over 100 kilometers per hour in some areas. Please be careful. I'm always careful. There was a pause. No, you're not. That's why I'm worried. Yuna smiled despite everything. Jihai knew her too well. Just keep tracking my signal as long as you can. If I find her, I'll try to call for help. And if you don't find her? Yuna didn't answer. She didn't want to think about that. The crystal trees grew thicker as she moved deeper into the forest. Their roots spread across the ground like silver veins, making the path difficult. Several times she slipped and fell, her hands scraping against the hard crystal surfaces. Blood ran from her palms, mixing with the rain. She kept going. After an hour, the communicator went silent. The storm had finally cut the signal. She was alone now, truly alone, in an alien wilderness that had killed many before her. The sounds of the forest changed. The screaming wind was joined by other noises, clicks, hisses, the rustle of something large moving through the trees. Yuna stopped and listened. She knew about the creatures that lived in the crystal forest. The Velith called them shadow teeth because they were dark as shadows and had teeth like broken glass. They were predators, fast and deadly, and they hunted at night. She saw movement to her left, a shape low and long sliding between the tree roots, then another shape to her right. They were circling her. Fear rose in her chest, cold and tight. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but she had studied these creatures. She knew that running would only trigger their chase response. They were like Earth's wolves in that way. They wanted prey that fled. Prey that stood still confused them. Yuna stood still. She made herself breathe slowly. She kept her eyes forward, not meeting their gaze directly. In many species, direct eye contact was a challenge. She made herself small, non-threatening. The shadow teeth crept closer. She could see them now, 3 of them, each about the size of a large dog. Their bodies were covered in dark scales, and their mouths were filled with jagged crystal teeth. They made clicking sounds as they studied her. One of them came very close. It sniffed at her leg, its hot breath warming her rain-soaked clothes. Yuna did not move. She did not breathe. After a long moment, the creature made a strange whining sound. It seemed confused. This small, soft thing did not run. It did not fight. It just stood there, smelling of something strange and foreign. The creature did not know what to make of her. Slowly, the shadow teeth backed away. They disappeared into the darkness, seeking easier prey. Yuna let out a long breath. Her legs were shaking so badly she almost fell, but she stayed upright. She had to keep moving. The river bed appeared after another hour of walking. It was dry now, carved deep into the crystal ground by waters that had flowed thousands of years ago. Yuna followed it, using her small flashlight to search for any sign of Elder Mother Sora. She found the first sign near a cluster of broken trees. A small bead made of polished crystal lay on the ground. It was a ceremonial bead, the kind that elder mothers wore in their ceremonial robes. Yuna picked it up carefully. She was here, Yuna whispered to herself. She came this way. She pressed forward with new energy. More signs appeared. A shed scale, deep green with age. A piece of torn fabric caught on a sharp root. A footprint in a patch of mud, 3-toed and unsteady. The trail was clear now. Elder Mother Sora had walked this path, slowly and with difficulty, heading toward the mountains where the hollow caves waited. What Yuna did not know was that she was being followed. Queen Thessa moved through the forest like a ghost. Despite her size, she was silent, her 4 arms helping her climb over obstacles with terrible grace. Her compound eyes saw in the darkness perfectly, and she watched the small human with growing confusion. When Thessa had left the station, she had been filled with rage. She was certain the humans had taken her elder mother. She planned to follow them, catch them in their lies, and then destroy them all. It would have been justified. It would have been righteous. But then she saw the human female walk into the storm alone. Thessa had expected soldiers. She expected weapons and tricks. Instead, she saw one small woman with a simple pack, walking into certain death without hesitation. It made no sense. She watched the human face the shadow teeth. Any Velith warrior would have fought and probably died. The shadow teeth were vicious creatures, nearly impossible to kill without heavy weapons. But the human just stood there, calm and still, and somehow the predators walked away. "What are you?" Thessa whispered into the darkness. She continued to follow, keeping her distance. She told herself she was waiting for the human to reveal her true purpose. She told herself this was strategy, not curiosity. But deep inside, something else was stirring, a feeling she did not recognize, something almost like respect. Yuna reached the base of the mountains as the first light of dawn began to break through the clouds. The storm was finally weakening, the wind dying down to something bearable. She was exhausted, soaked to the bone and bleeding from a dozen small cuts. But she had found the entrance to the hollow caves. The cave mouth was wide and dark, carved into the mountainside like a screaming face. Old symbols were etched into the stone around it, Velith writing from an age long past. Yuna recognized some of the words: death, return, peace, sleep. This was a place of endings. She stood at the entrance and called out, "Elder Mother Sara, can you hear me? It's Yuna from the human station. I've come to help you." Her voice echoed into the darkness and faded to nothing. No answer came. Yuna took a deep breath and stepped into the cave. The darkness swallowed her whole. Behind her, hidden in the shadows of the crystal trees, Queen Thessa watched the human disappear into the forbidden caves. The queen's claws dug into the ground with frustration and something else. Something that felt almost like fear. Not fear for herself. Fear for the strange, brave, foolish little creature who had just walked into the mouth of death. Thessa waited. She told herself to leave. The human had made her choice. Whatever happened now was not the queen's concern. But she did not leave. She stood there in the gray morning light, watching the cave entrance, and waited to see if the small, sun-warm creature would ever come out again. The darkness inside the hollow caves was total. Yuna's small flashlight cut a weak beam through the black, revealing walls of smooth stone covered in ancient carvings. The air was cold, far colder than outside, and it carried a strange smell. Old, dead, forgotten. She walked slowly, carefully, calling out Elder Mother Sora's name every few steps. Her voice echoed back to her, twisted and strange, making it sound like many voices calling at once. The caves were playing tricks on her. The path split into 3 tunnels. Yuna stopped and studied the ground with her flashlight. There, in the dust that had gathered over centuries, she saw a faint trail. Footprints, 3-toed and small. Elder Mother Sora had gone left. Yuna followed. The left tunnel went deeper and deeper into the mountain. The cold grew stronger. Yuna's breath became visible in the beam of her flashlight, small clouds of white that faded quickly. She began to shiver, and she knew this was dangerous. Humans could survive cold, but not forever, and she had already used much of her energy getting here. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The ceiling rose so high that Yuna's light could not reach it. The floor was covered in old bones, arranged in careful patterns. This was a burial place. The ancient Velith had brought their dead here to rest among the crystals that grew from the cave walls. And there, at the far end of the chamber, near a small underground stream, lay Elder Mother Sora. Sora, Yuna ran forward, her exhaustion forgotten. The old Velith was lying on her side, her 4 arms tucked close to her body. Her scales, usually a deep green, had turned pale and gray. Her eyes were closed and she was barely breathing. Her body was shutting down. Yuna knelt beside her and touched her face gently. The old one's skin was ice cold, far too cold. The Velith were not warm-blooded like humans. They needed external heat to survive, and this cave was draining the life from her. "Elder Mother, can you hear me? It's Yuna. I've come to take you home." Sora's eyes opened slowly. They were clouded with age and cold, but recognition flickered in them. Her mandibles moved weakly, trying to form words. "Little, warm one." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, it's me." Yuna fought back tears. "Why did you come here? Why did you leave without telling anyone?" Sora's eyes drifted toward the ceiling she could not see. "The call. I heard the call. My ancestors. They sang to me in my dreams. They told me it was time to come home, time to sleep with them." "It's not your time yet," Yuna said firmly. "Your granddaughter needs you. Your people need you. I need you." A small sound escaped Sora, something like a laugh. Such fire, in such a small thing. Her eyes closed again. "But I am too cold now. The cold has gone too deep. I cannot walk. I cannot move." Yuna looked around desperately. She could not carry Sora out of here. The old one was small for a Velith, but she still weighed much more than a human. And even if Yuna could lift her, moving her quickly in this cold would likely kill her faster. She had to warm her, somehow. Yuna pulled out her thermal blanket and wrapped it around Sora's body. It was designed for humans, not Velith, but it might help. She activated the heating element sewn into the fabric. It was not enough. Sora's body was too cold, too far gone. The small blanket could not generate enough heat to bring her back. Yuna made a decision. She took off her jacket, then her sweater. She stripped down to her thin undershirt, shivering violently as the cave's cold attacked her exposed skin. But she did not stop. She lay down beside Elder Mother Sora and pulled the Old One against her chest. The cold of Sora's body hit Yuna like a physical blow. She gasped, her muscles cramping, but she forced herself to hold on. She wrapped her arms around the Velith matriarch and pressed her warm human body as close as possible. Humans were strange creatures in the galaxy. They were not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but they were warm. Their bodies burned at temperatures that most species found uncomfortable. They were like small furnaces, constantly generating heat. And right now, Yuna was using that heat to keep Elder Mother Sora alive. "What are you doing?" Sora whispered, confusion in her ancient voice. "Keeping you warm," Yuna said through chattering teeth. "My body is warmer than yours, much warmer. If I hold you close, I can share my heat with you. But you will freeze." "Maybe," Yuna held her tighter. "But maybe not. Humans are stubborn. We don't die easily." Sora was silent for a long moment. Her body, so cold and stiff, slowly began to relax against Yuna's warmth. The human felt like fire to her, like standing too close to a flame. But it was not painful. It was wonderful. "I do not understand you," Sora said finally. "I have lived 400 cycles. I have seen many species, but I do not understand humans." "What don't you understand?" "This," Sora's weak claw gestured vaguely at their embrace. "Why would you do this? I am not your kin. I am not your kind. Why would you risk your life for me?" Yuna thought about the question. It was a good question. She was not sure she knew the full answer herself. "Because you were cold," she said simply. "Because you were scared, because I could help." "That is not a reason. That is madness." "Maybe," Yuna smiled even though Sora could not see it. "But it's human madness. We can't seem to help it. When we see someone suffering, we want to fix it, even if it costs us, even if it doesn't make sense." Sora made a small sound. It might have been wonder. "You burn so bright, little creature, like a small sun. I did not know such warmth existed." "Hold on to me," Yuna said. "Stay awake, keep talking, we're going to get through this together." Time passed. Yuna lost track of how long they lay there in the darkness. Her body grew numb, her thoughts fuzzy. The cold was winning, she knew. She was giving too much of her heat away. Soon she would have nothing left. But she did not let go. She thought about her home on Earth, so far away. She thought about her family, who she had not seen in years. She thought about all the choices that had led her here, to this cold cave on an alien world, holding a dying Velith grandmother in her arms. She did not regret any of it. "Yuna," Sora's voice was stronger now. The warmth was working, the Old One was coming back. "Your heart, I can feel it. It beats so fast, so strong, like a drum calling warriors to battle." "Human hearts are like that," Yuna murmured. She was so tired. "Always fighting, always beating. We don't know how to give up." "I see that now." Sora's claw moved slowly, gently touching Yuna's arm. "I see many things now, things I was too blind to see before." "Like what?" "Like how wrong we were about your kind. We called you the soft ones. We thought it was an insult. We thought soft meant weak." Sora's voice filled with emotion. "But I understand now. Soft means gentle. Soft means kind. Soft means you bend instead of break. And bending takes more strength than breaking." Yuna felt tears running down her frozen cheeks. "Thank you for saying that." "Thank you for coming for me," Sora whispered. "Thank you for burning so bright." They held each other in the darkness, the small human and the ancient Velith, sharing warmth and waiting for rescue that might never come. But Yuna did not give up hope. Humans never did. That was their madness. That was their strength. Queen Thessa had waited outside the cave for too long. The sun had risen and begun to fall again. The human had been inside for hours, and no sound had come from the darkness. The queen told herself she did not care. The human's death was not her concern. If the soft creature had been foolish enough to enter the forbidden caves, then she deserved whatever fate found her there. But the words felt hollow. They tasted like lies on her tongue. Finally, Thessa could wait no more. She rose from her hiding place and walked toward the cave entrance. Her forearms tensed, her claws ready for battle. She did not know what she would find inside. Part of her expected to find the human's body, torn apart by the cave creatures or frozen by the ancient cold. Part of her hoped she would find something else. The darkness of the caves did not trouble Thessa. Her compound eyes could see in the deepest black. She moved quickly through the tunnels, following the same trail Yuna had followed. The human scent was everywhere, mixed with blood and sweat and something else. Something that smelled like determination. The burial chamber opened before her, vast and silent. The bones of her ancestors lay in their ancient patterns, untouched for centuries. Thessa had heard stories of this place, but she had never seen it. It was forbidden, sacred, a place where the living did not belong. And there, at the far end of the chamber, she saw them. Thessa stopped, her breath caught in her chest. Elder Mother Sora lay wrapped in a thin blanket, her scales slowly regaining their color. And pressed against her, arms wrapped tight around the old one's body, was the human. Yuna's lips were blue, her skin pale as death. She was shivering so hard that her whole body shook. But she was still holding on, still sharing her warmth. Thessa had seen many things in her 30 cycles of life. She had fought in wars. She had killed challengers with her own claws. She had watched her people suffer and die, but she had never seen anything like this. A creature, small and soft and completely defenseless, slowly freezing to death so that an alien stranger might live. It made no sense. It went against every instinct, every rule of survival. And yet there it was, right in front of her eyes, impossible to deny. Thessa walked forward slowly, her footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. The human heard her coming and looked up. Yuna's eyes were unfocused, clouded by cold and exhaustion, but she still managed to recognize the queen. She still managed to speak. "Your grandmother," Yuna's voice was barely a whisper. "She's okay now, just cold, just needed warmth." Thessa knelt beside them. Up close, she could see how close to death the human was. Her body heat, the very thing that was keeping Elder Mother Sora alive, was running out. She had given too much, sacrificed too much. "Why?" Thessa asked. The word came out harsher than she intended. "Why did you do this? You could have left her, you could have saved yourself." Yuna's blue lips curved into something that might have been a smile. Couldn't leave her. She was scared. She was cold. The human's eyes began to close. Had to help. "But you are dying." "Worth it?" Yuna's voice faded to almost nothing. "She's alive, worth it." Elder Mother Sora stirred. Her ancient eyes opened, clearer now, filled with new strength. She saw her granddaughter kneeling beside them, and she reached out one trembling claw. "Thessa, my child." "Elder Mother," Thessa's voice cracked. She had not cried since she was a hatchling, but she felt tears burning in her eyes now. "I thought I lost you." "You nearly did." Sora's claw gestured toward Yuna. "This one found me. This little warm one came through the storm, alone, unarmed, to find me. And when she found me dying, she gave me her own fire. She burned herself to keep me alive." Thessa looked at the human again. Yuna's eyes were closed now, her breathing shallow and weak. She had given everything she had, and now there was nothing left. Something inside the queen shattered. something hard and cold and angry that she had carried her whole life. She had been raised to believe that outsiders were enemies, that softness was weakness, that only strength mattered. But this human had shown her a different kind of strength, a strength that had nothing to do with claws or armor or violence, a strength made of kindness, a strength made of sacrifice, a strength that burned like a small sun. Thessa made a decision. She stood and lifted both of them in her powerful arms, Elder Mother Sora on one side, the dying human on the other. She cradled them against her chest, sharing what warmth her scaled body could offer. "Hold on, little one," she whispered to Yuna. "You saved my elder mother, now I will save you." She ran. Thessa moved through the caves faster than she had ever moved in her life. Her 4 arms worked together, carrying her precious burdens while her legs drove her forward. The tunnels blurred past her, the ancient bones and sacred symbols forgotten. Nothing mattered except getting back to the surface, getting back to help. The cave entrance appeared, bright with afternoon sunlight. Thessa burst through it and kept running, racing down the mountainside toward the human station. In her arms, Yuna stirred. Her eyes opened slightly, confused and unfocused. "What's happening?" "I am taking you home," Thessa said. "Just hold on, you are not allowed to die, do you understand me? I forbid it." A weak laugh escaped Yuna's blue lips. "Can't forbid death. I am a queen, I forbid whatever I want." Something touched Thessa's arm. It was Yuna's hand, small and cold and gentle, resting against the queen's scales. It was not a grip of fear or desperation. It was something else entirely. "Thank you," Yuna whispered. Thessa did not know how to respond. She had never been thanked by anyone outside her hive. She had never been touched so gently by a stranger. She did not understand these humans, these soft creatures who walked unarmed into storms and gave their lives for people they barely knew. But she was starting to think that maybe she wanted to understand. The human station appeared in the distance. Thessa saw figures rushing toward her, human figures with concerned faces. She saw Jihai crying, running faster than the others. She saw Captain T1 with his hand on his weapon, then freezing in shock as he saw the queen carrying the bodies. "She needs help," Thessa shouted. "The human needs medical attention now." Jihai reached them first. Her eyes were wide with fear and confusion, but she did not hesitate. She reached out for Yuna, helping to lower her to the ground where other humans waited with medical equipment. Thessa gently set Elder Mother Sora down as well. The old one was weak but alive, her scales bright again, her eyes clear. "My granddaughter," Sora said, looking up at Thessa with pride. "You came for us." "I came for the human," Thessa admitted. "At first I thought she was your enemy. I thought I would catch her in a crime." The queen's voice dropped. "I was wrong." Sora reached out and touched her granddaughter's face. "She kept me warm, child. When I was ready to die, she held me against her chest and gave me her own fire. I felt her heart beating, so fast, so strong. Humans, they carry suns inside them." Thessa looked at where the medical team was working on Yuna. They had wrapped her in heating blankets and were giving her warm fluids. Jihai was holding her hand, crying and laughing at the same time. "She is going to live," Jihai called out. "She is going to be okay." Something loosened in Thessa's chest. Relief. It felt strange and unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. "Good," the queen said, and she meant it with all her heart. 1 week passed. Elder Mother Sora recovered fully, her strength returning with surprising speed. The healers said it was because of the human warmth she had received. That warmth had done more than just save her life. It had somehow renewed her, given her energy she had not felt in decades. Yuna recovered too, though it took longer. The cold had gone deep into her bones, and for 3 days she had burned with fever as her body fought to restore itself. Jihai never left her side during those days. Neither did Queen Thessa. The queen's constant presence confused everyone at the station. Ambassador Doyun did not know what to make of it. Captain T1 watched her with suspicious eyes, always ready for an attack that never came. But Thessa ignored them all. She sat outside the medical bay for hours, waiting for news, refusing to leave. When Yuna finally woke, the first thing she saw was the Velith Queen standing at her bedside. "You are awake," Thessa said. Her voice was strangely soft. "You're still here," Yuna replied, her voice rough from disuse. "Why?" Thessa did not answer for a long moment. She looked uncomfortable, her four arms shifting in ways that Yuna recognized as nervousness. It was strange to see such a powerful creature look so uncertain. "I do not know," the queen finally admitted. "I do not understand what you did. I have been trying to understand for a week and I still cannot. It goes against everything I was taught, everything I believed." Yuna pushed herself up slowly, wincing at the stiffness in her muscles. "What exactly don't you understand?" "Everything." Thessa began to pace, her claws clicking against the floor. "You walked into a storm alone. You faced predators without weapons. You entered sacred, forbidden caves. You nearly died saving someone who was not your kin, not your species, not even your ally. You had nothing to gain and everything to lose." The queen stopped and turned to face Yuna. "Why? What possible reason could you have had?" Yuna thought about her answer carefully. This moment felt important. What she said now might change everything between their species. "I had a reason," she said. "The simplest reason in the universe. She needed help and I could give it." "That is not enough." "It was enough for me." Thessa stared at her with those compound eyes that saw everything and understood nothing. "Your people confuse me. You are weak, soft. You have no claws, no venom, no armor. Any of my warriors could kill 100 of you without effort. And yet, you terrify me." Yuna blinked in surprise. "I terrify you?" "Yes." The queen's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Because you do not fight with claws, you fight with something else. Something I cannot defend against. Something that makes all our strength meaningless." "What is that?" "Kindness." Thessa said the word like it hurt her. "Love, sacrifice. You give without expecting to receive. You suffer so others do not have to. You burn yourselves to keep strangers warm." She shook her head slowly. "How can we fight against that? How can we hate a species that loves so freely?" Yuna reached out and touched Thessa's arm. The queen flinched at the contact but did not pull away. "You don't have to fight against it," Yuna said gently. "You don't have to understand it. You just have to accept that it exists, that we exist, and that we want to be your friends, not your enemies." "Friends?" Thessa tested the word. "The Velith do not have friends." "Maybe it's time to try something new." The days that followed changed everything. Queen Thessa formally withdrew her threat of war. She announced to her hive that the humans had proven themselves worthy of trust. The announcement caused confusion and debate among her people, but none dared challenge her decision. She was still their queen. Her word was law. But she went further than that. She proposed a formal alliance between the Velith and the humans, not just tolerance, not just peace, true partnership. She offered to share the secrets of the crystal forests in exchange for human knowledge and technology. She asked for human advisors to help the Velith navigate the complex politics of the Galactic Union. Ambassador Doyun was overjoyed. This was more than he had ever hoped for. The alliance would benefit both species enormously. The Galactic Union praised the breakthrough as a new era of cooperation. But the most important ceremony was smaller and more private. Elder Mother Sora summoned Yuna to the heart of the Velith hive. The great chamber was filled with warriors and elders and hatchlings, all watching in silence as the small human walked forward alone. Sora stood at the center, dressed in her full ceremonial robes. She looked stronger than Yuna had ever seen her, her scales bright, her eyes clear with ancient wisdom. "Yuna of Earth," Sora spoke in a voice that echoed through the chamber. "You came to our world as a stranger, you watched us from afar. You learned our language and our customs, but you did more than watch. When I was lost and dying, you came for me. You gave me your warmth. You gave me your life." The chamber was utterly silent. "No outsider has ever done this for a Velith," Sora continued. "No outsider has ever shown us such love. And so, with the authority granted to me by 400 cycles of life, I declare before all witnesses, you are no longer an outsider." Sora reached out and placed something around Yuna's neck. It was a necklace made of sacred crystals, the same kind that grew in the hollow caves. It glowed with soft inner light. "From this day forward, you are kin of warmth. You are family to the northern hive. You are daughter to me and sister to my granddaughter. Our home is your home. Our blood is your blood. Our fire is your fire." Yuna looked down at the necklace, then up at Sora. Tears were running down her face, but she was smiling. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will try to be worthy of this honor." "You already are." The warriors raised their claws in salute. The elders bowed their heads. The hatchlings chirped with excitement, not fully understanding what was happening but feeling its importance. And in the front row, Queen Thessa watched with something new in her eyes. Not suspicion, not confusion, something that looked almost like hope. Later that evening, after the ceremony had ended and the crowds had gone, Thessa came to Yuna's quarters. She stood awkwardly at the door, her massive form almost comical in its uncertainty. "I have something for you," the queen said. She held out her upper right hand. In it was a shard of crystal, about the size of a human palm. It pulsed with gentle warmth, like a heartbeat made solid. "What is it?" Yuna asked. "A piece of the sacred caves. It holds heat for a long time, longer than any natural material. My people use them to warm our eggs during the cold seasons." Thessa looked away, as if embarrassed. "I thought, you gave your warmth to my elder mother. You almost died because you gave everything you had, so I wanted to give some warmth back to you." Yuna took the crystal carefully. It was heavy and smooth, and its warmth spread through her fingers immediately. She could feel it like a living thing, a small sun she could hold in her hands. "This is beautiful," she said. "Thank you." Thessa nodded stiffly. Then slowly, her mandibles curved in a way Yuna had never seen before. It took her a moment to realize what it was. The queen was trying to smile. "My elder mother told me that humans show their teeth when they are happy," Thessa said. "It seems strange to me. When Velith show our teeth, it means we are about to attack." Yuna laughed, a genuine, warm sound. "Maybe that's something we can teach each other. How to smile instead of attack. How to welcome instead of threaten." "Perhaps." Thessa turned to leave, then paused at the door. She looked back at Yuna with those vast compound eyes. "You really would have died for her. You were not pretending. You were not lying." "I really would have. I do not think I will ever fully understand that, but I think I am beginning to understand something else." "What?" Thessa was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than Yuna had ever heard it. "Why the galaxy fears you," the queen said. "Not because you are strong, but because you make others want to be better. You make us look at ourselves and see what we could become, and that is more terrifying than any weapon." She paused. "It is also more beautiful." Then she was gone, her footsteps fading down the corridor. Yuna stood alone in her quarters, holding the warm crystal against her chest. Outside her window, the crystal forest gleamed under the light of 3 moons. Somewhere in the hive, Elder Mother Sora was telling hatchling stories about the human who burned like a sun. And somewhere in the galaxy, other species were beginning to hear whispers about what had happened on Kesra, about the soft humans who walked unarmed into storms, about the small creature who had almost frozen to keep an alien grandmother alive. The whispers spread, they grew, and slowly the galaxy began to understand something new about humanity. They were soft, yes, weak perhaps, small and fragile and easily broken. but they carried fires inside them that could warm the coldest hearts. They loved with a strength that put warriors to shame, and they would walk through any darkness to bring someone home. The Velith called them kin of warmth now. But soon, the whole galaxy would learn their true name. They were humans, and they burned so very, very bright.